mine might be this high. It might be. Welcome back to Survival Dispatch News. I'm Denny Chapman, and once again, I'm with Dave Kemp and John Wheaton from the Righteous Savages, and we just finished the Righteous Savages Tactical Weekend, the Warrior Weekend, if you will. Here's my official completion certificate. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you're certified. You're certified for 6 months. So
I'm certified something. I don't know what it is.
You have to re-up that for a fee every 6 months to stay current.
And the fee actually exponentially goes up.
That kind of makes sense in today's economy. What a fantastic weekend this was. We're going to talk about this tactical weekend, the Righteous Savages, what happened, why we did this, what occurred, and all those details. And this was the third tactical weekend that you guys hosted. The first one in 2024. Is that right?
Yep.
How'd this come about?
Well, I'll tell you, we've been doing all kinds of firearms training classes for years and years and years, and whether it's been law enforcement, civilian, it doesn't matter. People have always been in all of our classes. Seems like they're yearning for more. So here's a typical class. Whether you go to Lovell or Haley, or you name the person that you've decided might be kind of cool to go take a class from. Usually, how it works is you show up. You're there with a lot of people. The class is in a hurry because you're trying to get a lot of different things done. You do the class for 4 or 5 hours, and then the instructors peel off, in the blaze of gravel dust into the sunset, and you really don't even know what you did. You had a good time, and it was cool. You got some pictures with some YouTube celebrities maybe, but we found that a lot of people are just yearning for more. So we decided to do a weekend worth of classes, 2 days, and where there is no rush. Nobody's rushing to get out of there. And in between training and in between classes, you got all the time for the camaraderie and telling stories and sharing information and hanging out and getting to know each other.
Yep.
And that's what people are really looking for. And then on top of that, we might as well cook up some good food. So we're talking breakfast on the griddle. We're talking barbecue. You name it. We're having a good time. It's almost more of a cook-off than it is a training class. So it's really, truly an event that wraps around all the stuff that people are usually lacking when it comes to most typical tactical firearms classes. And it's just usually one of those things where it's mind-blowing for people. They have never experienced anything like that. They've never experienced a class or instructors that are really going. I mean, you talk about the extra mile. We're going the extra marathon here of trying to provide a really good training value. And probably the best part of the class is really not even the training. It's honestly just building a community, a brotherhood of like-minded people. And it's just amazing. We had a great time where you came out there, and it was awesome having you out there going through the ringer a little bit. And so
you put me through the ringer too. Well, John, let's break it down.
Yep.
What actually happened? What was covered? I know I was there. I know, but I want your version of what was covered in the Righteous Savages Tactical Warrior Weekend. What happened?
Yeah. So we start off, and we have kind of a progression that we start people with. So we'll start off with some pretty basic pistol work and going from that, just the basics of learning the fundamentals of shooting, the 7 fundamentals, and applying those. And then by the end of, by the early afternoon, we're running and gunning, shooting, moving around and doing all of that stuff. So it's fast paced, but we don't leave anybody behind. We meet everybody where they're at their skill level, and we bring the skills up as we are working through these progressions. Then, we'll take a break, we eat some lunch, talk, get a little bit of that camaraderie going, and then we're back out on the range to do a little bit more training and doing some more of those progressions. And then one of the things that we've really added into these Warrior Weekends is that we want to express our beliefs and what our purpose is and why we believe our purpose is for all of this training. Why we are men of faith that stand up and stand for what we believe in, and we're not bashful about it. So we actually had a little time where we talked about our faith, and we had some lives changed at this event, which was really, really awesome, and that was one of the most important things for us. and just being able to see those guys open up and able to share what had happened in their life was just amazing.
Definitely want to talk more about that. But back to the nitty-gritty. The one thing that I noticed that during the initial instruction was the detail in the fundamentals, Dave, that you were teaching. And I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I was a police officer. Yes, I've been to some tactical training through the years, but I've kind of been a run and gun kind of guy. I've been a shooting sports kind of guy the past few years, and it's been a while for me. And I have to tell you, I really appreciated the fact that you went back to the fundamentals, really the important stuff. And actually, John, one of you guys mentioned to me, maybe it was you and I, John, were talking about a professional sports athlete. Or maybe it was
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. What'd you tell me about that?
So I saw a video recently, and I've used this to teach people what fundamentals, why it's so important. There was a rookie that showed up for the Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, lifelong Los Angeles Laker, one of the best basketball players to ever grace the court, aside from Michael Jordan. But he is known for having this tenacious work ethic. Like, work out 5-6 times a day and just show up 2 or 3 hours before practice doing drills. And so this guy is a rookie coming into the Los Angeles Lakers, big franchise. So he's kind of wide-eyed, walks in and sees Kobe Bryant. He's there before practice, and Kobe Bryant's in full sweat working these basic pivot moves down on the post and pump fakes. Said he did it like 200 times, and he's like, what in the world is going on? He's doing it at game speed. He is pouring sweat, just really getting into this. And as he's walking off the court, he walks up to me, he's like, why are you doing the same move over and over again? And he's like, well, you want to know why I'm the best? Is because I do the basics the best.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true for anything that we are going to put our minds to. If you have a solid foundation, you can learn those things. You may not be the fastest, but you can be the best at the fundamentals, and that's going to give you an advantage in training.
Yeah.
We're launching the biggest giveaway we've ever had on this channel. We're giving one of you this fully customized Chevrolet Silverado Trail Boss Z71 thanks to VNSH. I love this thing. The VNSH holster is the most comfortable holster I've ever worn. It's made with premium materials that enhance all-day carry for the everyday American. This is an incredibly versatile holster that works with 99% of modern handguns, allows you to carry 2 extra magazines, and can be worn in just about any configuration you can imagine. To enter, all you have to do is click the link in the description and get yourself the most comfortable holster you've ever worn with a money-back guarantee. And VNSH will hook you up. They're knocking $50 off the retail price for anyone who buys using our special link below. Get an exclusive discount and extra entries this week only when you use our link below. Don't wait, because this giveaway ends in a few weeks.
David, you were going through and providing instruction in the beginning when we were working on the pistol fundamentals. How do you distinguish between your training philosophy and your advice for people who are obviously a little more advanced? And you had some real beginners in there, which was great, because they showed up for it, man. They were there to learn and really hungry for that information. How do you discern between this experienced guy and the newbies, and how you handle them and impart that information to them?
Right. Well, I would say most people that come to any training class, whether it's pistol or carbine, or you can call it whatever you want to, gunfighter, pistol, you can call it whatever fancy name you want to say to make it sound cool. Probably 90% of everybody that comes to these classes are probably, if you're honest, in some type of beginner or intermediate stage. So even though you hear us talking about, let's talk about the fundamentals of the handgun, we're really not, leaving the advanced people behind, because everybody can benefit. And it's not just training. It's not just doing drills. We're not just trying to, hey, let's run these SWAT standards or whatever. It really is, and you said it a minute ago, it really is teaching. We are teaching people. We're not just training. We are teaching people the foundation, like in the why, and showing them the behind the scenes, the mechanics, and the physiology of the human body, and why we do certain things. And unless you can put some type of, emotion or belief system behind what you're doing. It's all words. It's just all mumbo jumbo out there, and people really have to connect. And we spend a lot of time really trying to get people to connect and have those light bulb moments. You saw we did the halfway drill. We did a lot of things on the range where there was, a lot of teaching moments going on to explain to people, things about anticipating recoil and some of the mental aspects of just pressing a trigger, how to think your way. People don't ever hear, what should I be thinking about when I'm pressing the trigger? They hear, take the slack out and press the trigger. Yeah. And that's it. And so we get deep in the weeds about all the basics, and it's a teaching, it's a back and forth. We're there to learn just like everybody else from people like you, people that do have a lot of experience. So we try to really turn it into teaching moments for people and connect it to amazing things on the range so they really remember and it sticks with them.
Yeah. So you hit pistol, a lot of fundamentals, and added some fun challenges in there, which was really cool. Made the old men run around a little bit, and I think we held our. Oh, I say we.
Yeah.
Can we?
I think. Well, no, we were in the Masters division.
Senior division.
That's code. That's code for old guys.
Yeah. I'll just point out that I had the best time on the one drill until Dave decided to turn on the afterburners and beat me out. I came in second.
I'd had multiple attempts.
Really, actually, that drill was really interesting. I don't know if you even gave a name to it, but it was timed. It was a little timed event. Little pressure with that beep going off. Are you ready? Stand by. Beep. Shoot a shot at steel target. How far away? I don't know how far away.
Yeah, so we were shooting 10 yards at steel, but you had to run 20 yards.
Then we had to shoot steel, run 20 yards, shoot another steel, run back another. No, we had to holster in between, right? So there's some manipulation going on, some safety stuff going on. Right. Come back, shoot another one. So that was a really good drill, I think. And I think it really opened up some of the guys' eyes to the physical aspect to training. And I really want to speak to how important that is, because I feel very strongly about physical fitness in your survival training, your self-defense training, as a warrior, as a righteous savage. Why is that important?
Yeah, it's big time, because if you're an instructor out there and you're not preparing people for the reality of what a physical altercation is going to be, you're really giving them a false sense of security. We cannot just teach people to stand there in one place flat-footed on a flat range and shoot paper and pretend like somehow we are preparing them for the real world. We're not, and you're letting them down in spite of all the things that you're doing. And so it doesn't mean we got to go run 21 miles and then shoot, but you've got to put some people, it's just small things. Run 20 yards and then shoot. Or let me test your stance and let me see if you're really prepared to stand here and resist the gun or resist somebody advancing on you, and prepare them physically. And on top of that, most fights that I've ever been involved with or seen always end up on the ground, always end up in something. We get so many people. We do, so at Tombstone Gun Range, we also do concealed carry classes for civilians. Maybe 20% or more of the people that come out, their whole idea is, I'm carrying a gun because I'm too old, or I'm too fat to fight, or I'm too weak to fight, so I've got the gun to do the thing for me. And we're very quick to tell people, you are going to be highly let down when these things really happen, because you probably are going to get on the ground, or you're going to be ducking for cover, or hiding under a car, or hiding under a bed. So just getting up from laying down off the floor, you need to be aware that those things are possibilities. So we've got to incorporate physical movement. We're not trying to run a triathlon in our classes, because nobody's going to come out for that. But the things we do that do involve physicality, it's almost like we're going to open the door here and just show you what's up a little bit. Just self-evaluation. You get to see in front of everybody what your capabilities are. And it's kind of a theme of all of our training. We start off with theory and concepts, like, here's this gun and here's this equipment I got, and you should always shoot this way, and here's the fundamentals. So there's the conceptual side. Then there's the mechanics of, here's where you put your hands, here's how you press the trigger, here's where you look. So you got the mechanics, and then after that, it's time to go, and we're going to evaluate where you're at.
Yeah.
And after that, we can sit back and you realize, okay, where's my performance? It's probably not very good.
Right.
And then you incorporate drills and more training, and hopefully by the end of the day, your performance has increased. And if you don't continue that, you won't ever forget how to shoot a gun, but your performance will go down.
Yeah.
And people like Scott Jelinski from Samurai Warrior, they talk about this all the time. We're trying to build up a surplus of skill.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you don't need to shoot 6 times a second in a self-defense shooting. But how about let's practice being good at that so that if I don't, or if my skills degrade
We
in
actually
real life.
did a drill. We did a drill for a sort of a speed drill.
Yeah.
On a draw
So
and shoot.
we're trying to build up a surplus of skill. Let's try and be a little bit better than we really need to be.
Yeah.
So in the face of chaos and all these crazy things
Yes.
happening, that we've still got a level of skill that is going to be effective and efficient enough to get the job done.
In the face of chaos. Wow. So, pistol, then rifle. Let's talk about that a little bit. Why is it important that we should have those rifle or carbine skills?
I think that being well-rounded as a shooter is very, very important. Rifles are more effective weapons. They just really are. You know, if you get I think it's somebody I forget exactly who it was, but if you're going up against a rifle with a pistol, you're at a severe disadvantage because they're just better weapons. They're easier to shoot. They're more accurate at longer ranges. And so learning that is a skill that you can apply to multiple things. You can apply it to hunting. You can apply it to self-defense. You can apply it to a crap hits the fan type thing to, where it's, everything falls apart and you've got a little band of guys that needs to defend themselves. So it's applicable on so many different levels. And I think that it's important to have those skills as a shooter to be able to face any of the challenges that you might come across, but also it's just kind of fun. Yeah. So
for sure. Let's be honest. Any righteous gun owner in America needs to own an
Absolutely.
AR platform style rifle.
Amen.
I'm not saying it could be AK, it could be all kinds of different things, CZ, Scorpion, whatever you want it to be as far as being able to reach out a little bit further.
Yeah.
But we have so many people in this country that, especially after COVID, where everybody went and bought their AR because who knows what's going to happen, but they've never even shot it one time. We get so many people that I've owned this thing for 5 years and I don't even know, I kind of barely know how to load the gun.
Yeah.
So there is a slew of people out there that still need just basic training with that.
Yeah.
And then there's a slew of people that maybe you've been shooting one for 5 years. Here's the thing. If you have never been to a professional firearms instructor that has shown you how to shoot a pistol or a rifle, you are just making stuff up on your own.
Yeah.
And we see so many people that struggle horribly just because nobody's giving them the directions. Like, here's how you, just like fundamentals of a handgun. Here's how you stand. Here's where you look. Here's how you hold the thing. Here's how your arms are. Like, all this stuff. So many people need that. Not that we are the owners of all truth when it comes to firearms training, but bragging on us a little bit. We've been doing this for a long time. I was a copping for 29 years, firearms instructor for 22 years, SWAT commander for 12 years. And range owner for 11 years with over 10,000 civilians that have come out and taken classes from us. So we've got a system, we call it.
Yeah.
That and people need to know that. And it's not, here's a cool thing about firearms training. It's not like your kids taking piano lessons. Your 8-year-old decides, or you decide for them, you're going to put them in piano lessons. They're probably going to be in it for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. Once a week, you're going to piano lessons. Yeah. Shooting a handgun or rifle is not like that. I've just got to give you the bag of information. Here are the tools. It's all right here in this kit. Just go, train yourself, teach yourself. But you have to know, you've got to know what the right thing to do is. And the other thing about in-person training is that you've got somebody there that can evaluate you and give you feedback, because you can't see yourself. You might not know exactly what's going on. Like I tell people a lot of times, even Tiger Woods as a golf coach, like, well, how come the golf coach isn't winning all these tournaments? Because he's more of a teacher and an evaluator. And that's more valuable for Tiger Woods than anything else. And it's the same way when it comes to firearms instruction. You need somebody that knows what's going on, that can evaluate you and can convey to you how to fix things, how to do things different, how to correct issues. And a lot of guys, they know the buzzwords to say, but they don't know like how to solve problems or solve issues with shooters. And so that's a big thing. At least get to one of those dudes once in your life for whatever platform you're on, and you'll be off to the races.
Yeah. So not only did you address carbine or rifle shooting, you actually did some real practical stuff with it. You went out in the field, did some drills, even did some transitional drills. Tell us about what happened there.
Yeah, so we have a course on the back end. So Tombstone Gun Range is like 84 acres of land, and so the actual range that we use on a regular basis is a small portion of that. So there's a large portion of the back side of the range that we use for other things, and part of that is what we call our Tough Gunner course. So it is a course where you start and you go through several different progressions. While you're progressing, you're looking for targets, you're scanning and evaluating, you're moving as a unit. So we were running 4 guys at a time, moving as a unit like you would in an overland type situation, and patrolling, and then you're looking for targets. And you stop and you shoot the targets and transition from handgun to rifle and back and forth, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of push yourself a little bit physically, because there are some parts of that, and I'll show us that in some B-roll here, of where you have to climb a pretty steep incline, fully kitted out, and we add some other challenges. You might carry a sandbag, you might carry a kettlebell, and that gets passed off between the team members on the patrol, and it just gives you an idea of what a real life scenario could look like, and how you may have to transition to your secondary weapon if you run out, if you have a different target that's closer range, all those kinds of things. So it's a really, really cool tool, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of the culmination of what we do there, and everybody loves the course. So we have guys that are like, dude, let's run it again. We had guys run it back to back, because it's a lot of fun, and it's challenging at the same time.
Kind of here's the point. It's about a 500-yard course, paper targets, steel targets. We have a safety officer, looks a little bit like me, that runs with these guys and coordinates who's shooting, who's not, what targets they're shooting at. The point is not to try to run around and be a Navy SEAL or some commando. It's not LARPing. We're not trying to give these guys this make-believe experience. The point of all this is really to check people's abilities, shake out everybody's gear. When you jog 100 yards with all the stuff you're wearing, and you turn around and look at the yard sale you just left behind with all the gear that's on the ground, you figure out your equipment, your duty belt, this thing isn't working too good, or this holster's no good. It's a way to shake out your gear, your equipment, and it's a way to add some pressure to see, standing at 10 yards shooting at paper on a flat range is one thing, but running 100 yards, running up a hill, shooting at 80 yards, that's something else. And so it's the point behind all of that is not to milsim and pretend all this stuff. The point is, let's shake out your abilities, your tactics, and it's fun too, no doubt about it, but let's really see kind of where you're at.
Yeah. Why should the average Joe train like this?
So I think I don't even think it'd just be the average Joe. I think that there's a lot of people, I've had a lot of conversations here recently I think one of the things that's missing in the gun training world is vulnerability. And that's kind of a weird word to say, but I think that vulnerability is you being, able to say, hey, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I may be a cop that's been to all of this training. I don't know everything, so maybe I need to go to some other trainings. Maybe I need to get with different instructors and see how I can round out my skill and my bag of tools so that I have everything. I have a leg up in every kind of situation. And that takes a lot of vulnerability because, as men, nobody ever wants to admit that we suck at something that's considered manly, Right. So that's what I mean by vulnerability. It's not that we're sitting around talking about our feelings. It's about we're being introspective. We're saying, hey, I don't have all of the skills that I may need as a shooter, and so we want to encourage people to have that ability to look at themselves and say, yeah, maybe I need to do some of this training. For the average Joe, I would say we like Dave said earlier, we had a lot of people buy guns over the last several years. And we always have slots in our training program, so there's room for people to get in there, and I think that there's a need. You have to at least have done a little bit of training with the basics. We got a lot of guys out there that want to have 50 guns, but they won't spend $200 on a training. They'll spend $700 on a new gun and never know how to use it. And I would encourage anybody, your best money spent is on ammunition for training and working with a skilled and experienced instructor.
Yeah. And we don't want people to be scared away. Sometimes you look at this stuff on TV, YouTube, and you see
it can be intimidating.
You see these cops and you see these guys wearing camo and all these guns, and most average people might be intimidated away. Like, I don't know, man, that's just not for me. That's a cop thing, a military thing. I'm not quite sure. Well, first of all, we don't know everything. We are not trying to yell and scream at people and degrade people. We're out there just really trying to share information, transfer knowledge, as they say, to people. We want to learn in these classes. We want to give that people info. It's funny, back in the early 90s when I first got on a SWAT team, all the tactics and fundamentals of shooting were all like top secret, locked in a box somewhere. Like they're not going to tell the new guy, like, hey, here's how I become a good shooter. Here's how we do these things. You are the grunt. You're driving the truck. You're sweeping floors. You're, hazing going on, all that kind of stuff. And it would take years of just being around to be, trusted enough and good enough for somebody to start giving you information. Now things are exactly the opposite, especially in law enforcement training. We want everybody. We want the very brand new guy, day one on FTO. We want you to have all of the information we have, because you might be the guy coming to save me or my family. Right. I don't need you to wait 10 years to earn this information or to learn this information. So believe us, we are trying from day one, from class one, to give everybody the best of everything we got. You're getting everything. And there's not any real secrets out there anymore, thanks to the internet. But we're trying to give you, on a one-on-one level, the best, most current information. So you're not going to be stuck in a corner somewhere. We're not going to intimidate or make fun of people. Everybody is welcome, just like you've been around for 20 years. Yeah.
So you talked about, we live in the world of the internet, but all this training's available on YouTube. All I got to do is watch the videos, right?
Well, yeah.
Hit the brakes a little bit.
Now, I will say there is a small percentage of people. We've got a guy that has been to a ton of our classes named Ty Mayer. He bought an AK variant of some sort years ago, and he sat around at home and practiced malfunction drills with dummy rounds. He spent hours on this gun and had never shot it. And he came to a class with this gun, and we went through some malfunction drills, and he actually had a malfunction, a light primer or a bad primer on a rifle round, and he went right through these immediate action drills, and he's like, I'd never done that live with this gun ever before, but it worked wonderfully because he had sat home and practiced it. So watching stuff on YouTube is one thing. Actually going through some iterations of weapon handling and dry fire, that's something else. That's very valuable. And of course we tell people all the time, dry fire, practice, get these guns out, get your hands on them, actually go through the motions. So it's got to go beyond just the entertainment value and watching stuff on YouTube. Gotta get your hands dirty, and then you got to get to a class a couple times, at least once for handgun. And then beyond that, once you get started, then it just becomes fun. It becomes, you want to soak up more knowledge. It's like anything else you get into, whether it's woodworking or computers or video editing or you name it, all of a sudden you start to dabble around and you're like, I think I want to do some more of this. I want to get even more involved. And so it snowballs. Once you get out and get to your first class, you're going to really appreciate the fact that you did.
Yeah. You guys obviously really developed your own special philosophy behind this training, and you've spoken to that quite a bit. But I really want to talk about the infusion of your faith in this training as well. And I don't know if it's going to be a good shot or not, John, but you're wearing the Tactical Weekend T-shirt, and on the back there's a reference to a Bible verse. Yep. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, it's Nehemiah 4:17.
Yes.
Yep. What is that?
So that is where Nehemiah, they're rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And it is the verse that talks about having a sword in one hand and working with your other. So as the whole idea behind that verse is, as you're going through and you're building things up, be ready to defend yourself. And so that's something, credit Dave with that one, because, that was one that's actually on the wristband that I'm wearing right now. And so it's one of the things that we think is really important, that as you go through life, be prepared and be on guard, be a guardian and ready to tap into the warrior mindset at any time that it is necessary. So I think that the faith aspect is something that we are doing that's a little bit different than most. I mean, I know that there's a lot that are very outspoken about their faith in the gun training world, but we really want to infuse it. We really want to make sure that is something, because we're both Christians. We're all Christians. Yep. And we believe that Jesus died for our sins, and he is the reason that we're on this planet and, live this life. So we are very, very willing to speak to anybody about our faith, and we won't shy away from it. And so in this weekend, we had some moments where we got some time to have a time to reflect on that. And so we had one of our very, very good friends, Robbie Smith, come out. He's a pastor, and he took part in the training. And
I enjoyed his company a great deal. We had some great conversations.
Yeah, and he actually pulled his Achilles on the drill we were talking about earlier, and was actually on crutches when he did his little devotional time. And it was amazing because he shared his story. And it's just really cool when you've been walking in faith for so long, you see the stories of how transformational, this can be, and what he came from to what he has become now. It's just an incredible thing, and it's only through something miraculous could that happen. Somebody completely 180 their life, and so we wanted to make that a part, and we had some guys that decided to make a decision to follow Christ, which was awesome for us. We had 6 guys that did that, and it was amazing. It was something we honestly were hoping for, but we didn't really expect. It was one of those things is like, wow, okay, so there's something to this, this infusion of.
And that really, that was not planned at all. We didn't plan on having a class and be like, when these people get here, we're going to smack them over the head with some Bibles. Get people. That was not at all. But I'll tell you what, when you sit around a campfire, and I'll tell you what, if you've ever been to a training class before where you sit around a campfire for a couple hours, let me know about it, because I've never seen them before. But we do it.
Yep.
I'm telling you what, if you want to get closer with students and have a bond together and be able to continue the relationship later on, I'm telling you what, you got to get around and talk to people, tell your story, listen to people, and all of a sudden it really starts to feel like a family. And it's not just us, we're definitely not just preaching to people. No. We're definitely not just telling everybody what to do or how to do things. It's definitely just friends and family hanging out, or, around a campfire and over a couple of days of training and over some really good food and sharing things that, of what we like to do and talking about our families and our kids. Yeah. And I'm telling you what,
it's man stuff.
Yes. Yes. And it's more than just going, there's so many guys. We got one guy that comes down to one of our classes from Chicago, Israel, and he'll drive 5 hours in the morning to get to a class. And then drive home that night, and then drive down the next day for the class. Like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I just don't want to stay in a hotel, man. But I want to come down here. I like being around you guys and doing this. And when we see people putting that much effort into coming to classes, to me it means I think we're on the right track. Yeah. And I think people like what's going on and want to be a part of that. And they want to be a part of training and dudes that stand for something. It's not just about commando stuff. It's not just about let's do some cool gun shooting and it's got to be, it has to be, if you really want it to stick, about what's really behind, what's the purpose, why are we doing this, and what are we doing it for, and we hit all of that in class, and that's what really brings everybody together.
So you even took it a step further, and not only did you talk about rifle and pistol skills, but we talked about first aid and some trauma stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not talking about first aid and tactical medical stuff to some capacity in your firearms classes, I think you're letting people down. Ultimately, our training is just not pretending to go out and kill a bunch of bad guys all over the place. Our training, at the core of it, is we're trying to save lives of good guys and girls, and training to save our own lives, our families' lives. Part of that is medical. Part of that is knowing when to shoot, when not to shoot. The whole psychology behind self-defense with firearms, a lot of it is psychological and mental, and we've got to talk about the legal aspect of all this stuff. And it's not just pretend and going out and trying to fight the zombie apocalypse. We have to have a servant's attitude. We're going out there, and even the suspects we're dealing with, the bad guys, they're somebody's kid. They got a mom and a dad or kids or somebody that loves them a lot, regardless of how far off the deep end somebody might have gone. And it doesn't mean we lay down and go hug the guy with the AK-47 that's doing a bank robbery, but it means we have to have the attitude of, this is somebody that's important to somebody else, and if there's any chance that I can save this person's life, we're going to. But the priority of life scale is still there. In law enforcement, we talk about the priority, whose lives are most important, is the public, citizens, innocent people. Then it's cops, EMTs, first responders, and then it's suspects.
Right.
All right. And so we don't flip that around at all, but leave no mistake about it. We're still out there trying to save life. Save life. And that's our main goal.
Yeah. You and I have had a conversation in the past about righteous shootings. I want to revisit that a little bit and sort of define that and what it means.
Yeah, so in law enforcement, we use this term called a righteous shooting. It doesn't mean it was a cool shooting, or it doesn't mean we go and high-five each other afterwards. Righteous just means doing the right thing. And on top of that, it's one of these things where it was something that had to be done. So one example I always use in my classes is, imagine you heard some screaming coming from your 4-year-old daughter's bedroom, and you grabbed your gun and ran into the bedroom, and there's a guy with the bedroom window open, cut the screen, and now he's dragging her out the window. And you've got your gun, and you run up to the suspect to try and grab your daughter back, and you shoot the guy. Is that, legal? Of course it is. Is it moral and ethical? Yes. It was so legal and justified that it had to be done. There was no other choice. A righteous shooting means it had to be done. Not that you check the boxes of the law book of like, oh, was he committing this crime? Was he in your house? Check, check, check. It wasn't that. It had to be done. And here's how you know it had to be done. You ask yourself this question: what are the consequences if I don't do anything? Well, in that situation, the guy kidnaps your daughter, has sex with her, kills her, and throws her off a bridge. No, that's not acceptable under any terms. And so that's what we would call a righteous shooting. Not that anybody really wanted to do it. We don't want to take somebody's life, but it was something that absolutely had to be done.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, in any situation where somebody's trying to take advantage of you, it never pays to be the nice guy. I can tell you that from 29 years of law enforcement for sure. That's 100% law of nature, without a doubt. So
how does one train to react without hesitation?
Here's the thing.
Good question, right?
Yeah, and here's how you do it. You train it for real in person, along with the mental aspect of training. Your body is not going to go where your mind has not gone first. If you don't process this stuff in your mind first, if you have never thought through, like, what would it be like to actually physically shoot somebody? If you've never run that through your mind, you will pause and you will wonder in the moment, oh my gosh, is this something I'm supposed to be doing right now? So you have to mentally prepare. You have to mentally run these scenarios through your mind. We can train and shoot paper and practice the gun side, but the decision-making part of, do you have what's inside of you to do that to another human being? I mean, that's not our human nature to shoot somebody or to kill somebody.
Especially as Christians.
Yes, yeah. There's a big hesitation for most people. It's just natural. We're nice guys. We don't want to hurt somebody. And we do see a lot of people hesitate. But you've got to know why you're doing this, and you have to have run these things through your mind before, so that when it does happen, you're not like paralyzed by fear. Like, oh my gosh, what do I do? When those things happen, you're like, you know what? I thought this was going to happen one day, and here's what I've decided in advance that I'm going to do, and you do that thing, and you focus on that.
You have to be a righteous savage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talk about the terms guardian and warrior, and how it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. So you're 100% a guardian and you're 100% a warrior. So as a guardian, you're going to be walking through life looking to help those that need it, looking to protect those that need it, to provide, to be that person who is just an upright, good, principled person. And then there may be a moment where you have to tap into that warrior, where you have to turn into that savage and fight with everything that's in you against evil. And that evil can be many things. Sometimes it's a physical evil, sometimes it's a spiritual evil. But we believe that being able to flip that switch between the guardian and the warrior, and being able to fight as hard as you can. And then when that fight is subsided, when that's over, we go back to being the guardian. That's where we may save the person that was just trying to kill us. Because that's the aspect of the guardian that, hey, I'm going to get in and I'm going to do the right thing at the right time.
How important is this training? It's perishable, right? How often should we train?
Well, I don't know. From a lifelong trainer, of course, my standards are a lot higher. It depends on what you're training with. And what tools you have. And some guys we see come to training and they're loaded down with every piece of gear and kit you could possibly imagine.
I saw it this weekend.
And they've never really, they just have it. It's on them. They probably never pulled the tourniquet out and put it on somebody. They've probably never gone through a malfunction drill with the rifle they got, or they've probably never messed with the LPVO that's on their rifle or whatever. So it kind of depends how complicated you've made your life with all your gear a little bit. But just strictly from the firearms skill level, an honest answer I would say was you probably need to be pulling the triggers on those things once a month. I'd say that'd be a bare minimum. Now, if you've trained for a long time, years, you've had a long journey, those skills will stay with you longer. So, at some point, not to say that you reach a point where you're good enough and you never have to practice. Shooting is just a very dynamic thing. There are so many things going on and so much input that goes into that physical skill that your brain needs to keep that wired the same way every single time, so you don't lose it.
Yeah, there's so many things happening in the world today that make our viewers and us think about why we should keep those skills up. And we're not just talking about Armageddon and the apocalypse, and we're talking about everyday stuff, and even the invasion of our border, and all these people who we don't know what their intentions are coming across our border, and who knows if there's a secret army being built and going to try to I don't know. Am I a conspiracy theorist? Maybe just a little bit, but there are a lot of reasons to train and to seek opportunities like this. So if someone can't, we're in Southern Illinois, we're right here in the heartland, but if someone can't really physically make it here to Righteous Savages, how does one pick out a proper training scenario or instructor? Is there an answer to that?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of crazy instructors. YouTube is a great place to find some wild and crazy stuff out there. People doing, shooting upside down out of the passenger side of their truck and all kinds of crazy things like that. I don't know. It's hard to say. Just because somebody's a cop or been in the military or been whatever, that does not automatically qualify them. Just look at Top Shot. Who won Top Shot most of the years?
Yeah.
Civilians.
Yep.
No law enforcement, no military, but they trained themselves or practiced a lot with all kinds of different stuff to where they won that competition. Despite there being law enforcement and military there. So that's not the number one thing you're looking for. You want to have an instructor that is a teacher, that knows how to evaluate and can describe to you and instruct you how to get better, how to fix things. Now, The hard part is you don't know what that is ahead of time. There is no standard. There's no menu or recipe that you can look up like, here's the 12 things every instructor needs to know or teach. Those things aren't there. So, word of mouth is a big one. Talk to people that have been to instructors before. Try to. And number one thing is your safety is the number one thing that's most important. If you don't, I tell guys and girls in our classes, the very first second that you feel unsafe in our class or you think something sketchy is going on, go inside and get your money back and go to the next range down the road.
Yeah.
We welcome people to evaluate our safety protocols that we have in place, number one.
Yep.
Number two, we're trying to give the class isn't about me. It's not about you watching me, how good I can shoot this gun or this drill and then just tell you to do it. It's about the student. So what is the instructor providing the student? Are you getting anything after you're done with a class? Are you getting an outline of what you did? If you've ever been to any internet YouTube instructor firearms class, how many of you leave the class with an outline of what you did that day? Not very many people get it. They leave the class, they go home, tell their buddies, hey, I did this class with YouTube instructor XYZ. And like, well, what'd you do in the class? I don't know, but it was cool.
Shot a lot of bullets.
That's the answer. And nobody even remembers what they did. How come as an instructor you're not giving your student information? Here's an outline. We give students a QR code to a Google Drive link that is filled with all kinds of information about shooting and drills and tactics and the mental side of things. Like, we need to give you stuff, information, not a medal for doing good, but we need to provide you with valuable information. So when you leave, so that's something I tell people, like, what are you going to leave with? A lesson plan, things to work on in the future? Like, that might be something to think about, right? Well, you get that. Sure. You come to private instruction with us. We write down the things we worked on. We write down what you need to work on in the future. This is like, any lesson plan that you might have from a high school teacher or whatever, or a professional firearms instructor. Anybody that's been working, especially, here's the good thing about working through a law enforcement agency is if it's a fairly decent size agency, you probably have to do lesson plans. You probably have to plan things out on paper. You probably, are going beyond what just Fred at his barn in the middle of nowhere is doing with firearms instruction. So there's a lot of things, little things like that. Word of mouth, works pretty good too, but you got to take all that with a grain of salt. And sometimes it's a roll of the dice, for sure. But like for us on our channel and the information we put out, watch 20 of our videos on YouTube first.
Yeah.
And see, what's your gut feeling? What does it look like? This is goofy stuff. Does it look like I'm just regurgitating the same thing that somebody else said 100 times, or does it look like maybe we've got some insight from our real life experience in law enforcement and teaching civilians into how this thing works? And ultimately for us, it's about the student learning and leaving better than when they showed up.
Yeah. John, you really went through an evolution, man, because you're partnered up with a 29-year law enforcement veteran who's been shooting guns his entire professional career, and then rose above to become an instructor and a SWAT commander and so on. And then you guys connected, came together. Had you had any idea that a few years later you would become an instructor with Righteous Savage? How was tell me about your little journey.
Well, so my history is, I was in the military for 12 years, but I turned wrenches. I worked on planes. So it wasn't that I was this, crazy high-speed dude, doing all kinds of...
They were cool planes.
Yeah, they were cool planes.
Watered down in it.
But, and I'll do a shout-out real quick to, everybody that served.
Sure.
Whether it police, military, everybody that serves community and serves their country, is worthy of honor, and absolutely. I believe that completely. But I was more of a self-taught shooter for most of my life and got pretty hardcore into it within the last decade, and especially the last 5-6 years. I think probably the biggest turning point for me was 2020. We're 4 years removed from that insanity. Yep. And I saw kind of a need of, like, I had taken some classes, done my concealed carry, go out and shoot, a couple times, 3-4 times a year, but I wasn't really, really dedicated to the craft of being a shooter, and I I decided at that point I was going to dedicate, time and resources, money to becoming a very skilled, well-rounded shooter.
Why?
And I think it was that I talked about earlier, of vulnerability. I looked at myself and I said, you know what? I want to be that guy that can actually protect my family if that stuff
That's what I was looking for.
happens. I don't feel confident that I could.
Right.
And that was my mindset there. I think that's really where you have to get, is say, could I? I don't know. Now I want to be confident that I can. I want to be confident that when evil comes to my door, I can meet it with the savagery that I need to meet it with to put it at bay.
Yeah.
And so through, a friendship that me and Dave struck up, through taking some classes, him teaching me his philosophies and me really dedicating time to learning those. And then, one day I said, I think I'd like to teach this stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I think you could do it. And so I started that journey. And then after our first tactical weekend, so we're literally a year removed from that. After that, we said, we really need to do something.
Yeah.
Something cool to bring like-minded individuals, build a brotherhood, and start to develop a community of guys that would be willing to do that. And I think that it's even stretches outside of the firearm world. Mm-hmm. It's about being a good husband. It's about being a good father. Yep. And standing up and saying, I'm going to protect my kids from this. I'm going to protect my wife from this. I'm going to, be a principled person and be a God-fearing man that is worthy of respect, but also is somebody that is easy to follow.
Yeah, and can be savage when you need to be.
Yep,
right?
Yep.
So you made reference to your channel. Let's talk about how people can find you guys.
Yeah, so we're on just about every social media that you can imagine. So our biggest push right now, we're trying to grow our YouTube channel. So that's just YouTube/Righteous Savages. So like and subscribe to that channel. We're growing, and we really want to grow that. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X. I'm trying to think. Telegram. We have all
TikTok.
of these. TikTok.
You got a Patreon coming, right?
Yes, so we're working on content for a Patreon, and this is kind of funny because we just talked about the YouTube guys learning stuff from video, but we're doing a complete video series that breaks down a lot of this basic stuff, but it's in a way it's not that we're teaching you a full class, but we're teaching you little parts of those classes, things that you might be able to learn that would equip you to come out to maybe a training and be better prepared to actually, because we're giving you practical things that you could practice at home, things that you could do, and things to set your mindset. We're also going to do some of our faith stuff on that Patreon. We're going to jam it full of a lot of really cool content to help people become well-rounded in every aspect of their life.
Yeah, I think a lot of time guys feel that their masculinity prevents them from professing their faith sometimes. Do you find that, and then how do you help them overcome that?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I don't know if it's people's masculinity or not, I think it's sometimes just the natural tendency for guys, just especially cops and military, we don't want to share. For me personally, after being a cop for 29 years, I don't really want to talk to anybody about anything. That's a hard thing to say. My wife is like, yeah, no kidding, tell me about it. All these years, it's just felt like a lot of guys feel like it's a struggle, because if I even begin a conversation about anything personal or difficult, it's just, this is going to take forever. There's so much backstory. There's so much to our personal story. Sometimes it's just hard to get the ball rolling. Like, I don't even know if I want to get into anything. I don't even know if I want to get into, any part of my day, just because people don't understand what I've done. People don't understand situations. It's complicated. Yeah. There's just like this resistance to open up. But then all of a sudden, you're around other guys that are all of a sudden, they're talking about whatever their issues with a family situation or issues with their faith. And as soon as you're in a room and one person speaks up, like, hey man, I just want to let everybody know I'm struggling with this. then all of a sudden the ice is broken. Like, oh man, I didn't want to say it first, but he did, and so now I've got something to offer now. Yep. Now all of a sudden, not only is he speaking on it, but he probably wants to hear about it. So you know what? I think I'm gonna say something and offer. And if you can put guys like me in a situation where it feels like I have something of value to offer, a life experience, or a situation in my life, then guys can't wait to talk. I mean, they're knocking people over. Like, my turn, I want to tell you about my situation. And so that when
contagious.
People, so do not be afraid to speak up to your buddies, to your family about something. Because next thing you know, it's like, maybe your brother-in-law is going through something. Yeah. Like, man, and next thing you know, like, man, me too. Why didn't you say something earlier? Like, we have to stop resisting speaking up. Yeah. And the solution to that is just know that there's 5 million other people. They cannot wait for you to speak up. They can't wait for you to say something, and they're just right there ready to back you up.
Yeah, we recently did a piece on toxic in quotes masculinity, and talked about overcoming that and the falsity of that term, and why it's really important to be a strong man of faith for yourself and your family, for your wife and your kids and your family, and for your country. And we just we want to remind our viewers of that, why it's so important, why it's so awesome that Righteous Savages portrays that philosophy and that theory. And I just applaud you guys. Happy to be a part of it. Very proud to be a part of it. Very proud to have accomplished my very first Righteous Savages Warrior Weekend. Yep. I can feel the testosterone surging through my veins.
We almost set your certificate on fire.
Melting candles. Yeah.
Really cool. Really cool there. Want to encourage everybody to follow these guys on YouTube, all the social media, Righteous Savages. I want to want to end this with your catchphrase, the Righteous Savage catchphrase, which is what, guys?
Remember to carry Jesus wherever you go and act like you believe.
And act like you believe. So that's something I'm going to remember when I go home tonight. I want to act like I believe, and hopefully that'll rub up on somebody else, and I can be a righteous savage influence on the next guy.
Yep. James 2:18 is the Bible verse where we got that act like you believe from, which essentially means, if you really honestly believe in anything, it could be believing in God, believing in anything. Maybe you just believe that maybe you'll get attacked someday. If you honestly believe something, you will act in a way that proves that you really believe that.
Yeah.
If you really believe in God, then you should act like you do, and not just, sweep it under the rug or kind of halfway do it. If you really believe that somebody, might do harm to you, or there might, do some type of home invasion or a crime, then you will do something about it. You will act like it. So act like believe just means take your beliefs serious and walk it out through your actions.
I love it. All right, guys, make sure you're following the Righteous Savages. They're all over the place, YouTube, social media. Until next time, stay safe out there.
Whatever your trigger, find your truth at Cloud Hub today.